Anytime that there's a major fire or an oil well, what they call a blowout, the call goes out, get Red Adair. He is one of the few people in his company that do this kind of business. It's called wild well control. And what that means is whatever has to be done to control a problem, whether it's a fire or a blowout at oil wells. And to my knowledge, he's the only company that does that job, which is fascinating. And his most recent job was on the North Sea, one that we've read about recently, the Phillips Petroleum Bravo 14, which is now controlled. We thought you might like to meet this interesting gentleman. Would you welcome, please, Red Adair. Hey, it's nice to meet you. Really, I've admired you. I've been reading about you for years. I saw the movie that John Wayne portrayed. I guess kind of your life story in that, right?
Well, it was about 5 different jobs we've done all over the world, and I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah. You know, what intrigues me on this introduction, I said you're one of the few people, if not the only company that does this. Why is that? I can see why a lot of people would not say, hey, there's a fire, let's run out into the middle of it and cap an oil well, but you seem to have it pretty well wrapped up.
Well, if you go see the doctor, you're not going to call an amateur, are you?
No, that's right.
Call the best you can get, and I think we're the best, and that's the reason we don't have any competition.
Yeah. How young were you when you got into this?
What did I do before I got in it?
You know, how young were you when you really started to get into the business of putting out these blowouts?
Well, let's say I started in 1938.
Right.
And I was just a young kid then.
Tell me about the North Sea thing. That made a lot of... did the media blow that all out of proportion? It sounded like it was a terrible catastrophe. And when I asked you just briefly before the show, you said, well, it was kind of a medium job, nothing tremendously difficult. What was the problem? What actually happened out there?
Well, there's been a lot of stories about it, pro and con, but Boots and Richard done a heck of a job, and they had everything going their way, and I come in there at last and just help them bolt it up, but it got blown plumb out of position, and we've had a lot bigger jobs, more oil and rougher to work on, but it just, news got it, and it scares the heck out of us, all this news. We don't,
when you say blown out of position, when they drill beneath the surface of the sea, Red, they have to cap off the pipe so they can control the flow of oil. Is that it?
Well, what they do when you drill, like take this Bravo platform, that well was 10,000 foot deep. And you have all strings of pipe, anywhere from, say, 30-inch, 20-inch, 16-inch, 13 3/8, and 7-inch, and 4-inch tubing.
Right. And
there's an obstruction in the well, so they decided they'd rework it. And they pumped mud in it and killed it, and then they put a plug in it 500 feet. And the well stayed dead for, 5 hours? Doesn't happen. So they took everything off, and in that process, the well started coming in, so they grabbed this blowout preventer and they slapped it on. But we made it work, even though it was upside down.
Yeah, now, did somebody go in there originally and put it on the wrong way?
Oh, yeah, the crew did. All this happened at midnight, and you're 180 miles offshore. You're in water that's 40-some degrees. Survival lasts maybe a minute. And these men got this thing on, which is, we're proud they did. Right. They evacuated 100 and some men, didn't even... One guy fell overboard. His survival gear saved him, so I think he did a heck of a job.
That's you just toss it off like it's just a day's work, which I guess it is for you. What is the wildest job you've ever had, the most difficult thing you've ever had to stop, get under control?
I believe some of the roughest jobs we get are in these swamp areas where you have to lay board roads in.
Talking about down in Louisiana, in that area?
In South Louisiana, like in Sumatra and down in Nigeria, and then you have rebels shooting at you and stuff like this. And
that kind of shortens the workday a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, you don't burn the porch light at night. I sit on the porch in Sumatra with this Colonel Patty.
Right.
And I turned the light on, he'd turn it off. Finally, Boots went up to him and said, Colonel, what's the matter? And he said, well, Boots, he said, Red don't know, but them rebels shoot at me every now and then. So I just unscrewed that bulb the next night.
Good move. What methods do you use to control now a fire? You mentioned pumping mud into a well, right? So you go in and
right.
Now that's just to temporarily stop the fire and oil from coming out?
See, the well has surface pressure, say 4,500 pounds. So this mud you pump in, you have to have enough mud to overcome the weight of the bottom hole pressure And that way you keep your well quiet.
Right.
And mud does a number of things. That when you're drilling a well, you pump mud in it, and it takes your cuttings out. It keeps the bit cool. It keeps the hole from caving in, and keeps the pressure from letting the well blow out.
I just read that they had one. I guess you mentioned that was a gas line that erupted in Saudi Arabia the other day.
Oh, that's right. It was a gas line. They have valves closed off, and it stops that.
They stopped that one.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got another one already?
Oh, I have my son Jimmy on one in South Louisiana, but it hadn't blown out yet. It's sitting there with a bunch of pressure on it.
In other words, they can tell when it might get ready to blow.
Oh, yeah. It's closed in, so they have, the well has 8,700 pounds on it and has 5,000 pound equipment on it.
How many men do you want on a job like the North Sea, the Bravo thing? How many men were actually involved from your company in something like that?
Well, in my company, I had Boots and Richard over there. Then you use drilling personnel. Then you use Phillips men. And there's about 15, well, actually 13 of us up on the floor.
Now, when they call you and they have something like this, knowing the oil companies have a few dollars, do they say, Red, what's this going to cost?
I think they're afraid to ask me.
Cooper, come back. I'm going to nail you down on that right now. Let me do this commercial first. We'll come back and talk with Red Adair in just a moment. If you just joined us, we're talking with Mr. Red Adair. I find this work you do so fascinating and yet so dangerous. You have these along. Are these some of the garments that you wear? You know, obviously you have fireproof type of gear.
Well, this isn't fireproof. This reason I'm giving it to you.
Really?
And I got fireproof underwear for you.
Fireproof underwear?
Yeah.
Well, time has long since passed since I need that. But in case it ever happens again, I'll call you. You know what we ought to do after the show? We ought to go over to the luau and don the beachcomber and put out all the food. Wouldn't that be funny? I think we have some film clips here. I don't know what sequence these are or how long they are, but I guess they're showing various techniques that you use when you're fighting these fires.
I don't know which one we got first. We'll have to...
Well, why don't we roll them here, and we got a monitor right up here, and you can talk right over them, Red, and let us know what's going on here.
Oh, this is your Catco fire off the coast of Louisiana.
That's oil fire, right?
That's a gas distillate.
Gas.
Men died in this.
Oh, good heavens.
And we were 7 weeks on it. And in our work, nobody got hurt. And it was
now you have helicopters
19 wells on.
Yeah.
See, the copters fly around the Gulf. It's calm here, but you'll notice you have a lot of ground fire, and this is one thing you really don't want. But see how it burns on the water?
Right.
And
are those men up there on some kind of a rig?
Oh, we climbed all over that thing. We stripped everything off of it, and we shot the fires out, different tree off, and kept each one of them. And they drilled directional wells into 3 of them, and we kept 15 of them.
That's incredible.
It was quite a fire. That's the first big offshore fire we've ever had. And those rigs in the background are the one drilling for directional wells. Mm-hmm. There's the main one. That's a quadruple well there. That's the one that started it. And
those can go for weeks, can't they, before you can get them under control?
That could have burned, I guess, 50 years for it to deplete. And it just shows you what you get into. And there's a picture of the equipment we have to use. And it's a little behind time now. We need a big semi-submersible to work with.
Right. That's wild. That is absolutely incredible. Somebody said you have a particular new piece of equipment now that you came up with that you used in the North Sea?
Yeah, we're building a semi-submersible that costs $50 million. And we want a 5-year payout if we can get it. But this thing will be able to work on these platforms. You can cut your fire down, blow it down in about a third of the time.
Right. Have you ever had any personal close escapes yourself in this over your lifetime?
Well, the closest I had was here in California in 1953 from over to Hollywood racetrack. Not racing, I mean on a job.
Could have been either one.
And the crane boomed around and caught me and crushed my pelvis, hips, and ripped me up the back. And said I wouldn't live, but I did. Then they said that I wouldn't walk, but 4 months later I was out working again.
That's the one major thing that's happened to you.
That's
but on these
one.
Type of fire things so
no,
far?
I've never been in fire on one of those. I don't believe you'd get out of it.
Now we got another little, all right, we got another piece of film coming up here. We'll take a look at the monitor, see what this is.
No, this is loading a charge. Oh, that job's in Libya.
Mm-hmm.
And, no, that's in Gutter. That's a little down that well was deliberately blown up with saboteurs. And this first charge we put in here is to shoot a tee off of it to open the well up.
Right.
because they thought the bottom master valve would be open, all the oil and gas would go up.
We use TNT or nitroglycerin or...
That was G-effect. We learned to use any kind of explosive we can get to make it work. And here you're wrapping it with asbestos to protect it, and you have asbestos inside.
Now you have to go drop that into the...
It has to be placed exactly where you want it. And we made a dry run each time, and you would time it, and you put a thermometer and see how hot it gets, because those caps go off at, I think, about 150 degrees.
Right.
So we would get in there and get it out before it went off. And I think those are tracks we used to back it in with a bulldozer. Now, we'll shoot the top of the tree off here. I'm pretty sure this is it. Now,
you've got to go in and put that charge right on top of that.
Right in there, up against it. So you see there, it'll go off in just a second. These are all set off electric and the way you want them.
Now, obviously, the water's to keep the temperature down so it doesn't prematurely...
That's right. You got to keep it cool.
Right.
Yes. There it should come straight up. There she comes. And that little piece went out to the left. That was a valve. You learn to use explosives. You almost tip your hat with it.
So you opened up that, the clogged...
That first shot, we shot the T off. The next shot, you probably won't show it. It's so shooting the whole tree off of it. And that's cleaned it out so we could get in there and work on it.
That's fascinating. That is incredible.
That was making 50,000 barrels a day.
That's incredible. Do we have another one also? This is, what's the most expensive job? I don't want to get into your personal finances, but the most expensive job you've ever had to handle?
Well, we had one over in Dubai. I think last year it went on for 7 months. And just the cost of the equipment, not counting the drilling rig loss and the oil, was $80 million.
$80 million just to control this?
Just to control it.
That is absolutely incredible. I had no idea the figures.
Well, this is one thing a lot of people don't understand. These oil companies get after them a lot, but they don't realize the money they spend on safety equipment to keep these wells from blowing out. And there's, say, about 21,000 wells drilled in the Gulf of Mexico with only about 6 major blowouts.
And as you said, all in all, with the tremendous amount you have, that the percentage of major accidents is relatively small.
It's small, very small.
But as long as the human factor comes into it, obviously there are going to be tragedies of any kind in any business.
Well, that's true.
No matter what it is, I suppose.
Like you have an automobile wreck, you can't get mad at the automobile people.
Right. Okay, here's another little piece of film. Let's see what this is.
Now, this is 5 wells in Libya. They were deliberately blown up, and that's Kootenai. And this first well, we're trying to get into the tubing, and we have to, there's a plug in it, we have to take this plug out of it.
Are you in that?
Yeah, that's me up there with Kootenai. So we're trying to...
You're nuts, Red. I don't know how to tell you this. Nothing personal, but...
Yeah, see, we're trying to get it open, and there's Coots eyeballing it while we pull on it.
Right.
And it gets a little warm in there.
Yeah.
And then it comes off, then we get in there and we get it opened up, and believe it or not, we killed that thing with a stinger while it was burning. And there we go up, after we pulled it off, walking up into it. But we put this little grated metal up so we could walk out on the wellhead and look at it.
Right.
There we are. That's me with that asbestos thing on. The fire kind of got in your face a little. But they were driving that plug out. And it opened up there a few minutes later.
Now, that could blow up at any time.
Well, it could blow off. Anything could blow off. That's blowing out that well, that's another 50,000 barrel well.
I think I know why. You're probably one of the few companies that does that. That's not the job an average guy would say, hey, I think I'll go out and stand next to a burning oil well. That is, are you insurable at all? Do you go to a life insurance company and say, I'd like to be insured? I would like to see the agent sitting there making out that policy. What do you do, Mr. Adair?
Well, well, that insurance is awful high to get.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to cut off our workman comp in July. I don't know why.
They probably saw these pictures tonight. Really, it's been a great kick having you on the show.
Well, thank you.
You said you're off to Norway soon to...
I have to get back in. I go to Norway Saturday.
Uh-huh.
And I'll be over there, then I come back, and then I got to go back to England. Then I'll come back. Seems like I'm following Carter, or he's following me. I haven't figured it out yet.
Fascinating work, and you're a fascinating man, and it's a pleasure to know you.
Well, thank you, Tom.
Wish you great luck.
Thank you.
Red, thank you. You know, you find it's always true of gentlemen who are engaged in those kind of professions. The more hazardous the profession sometimes is, the more casual they are about it.
Almost shy.
It's just like us coming to work here.
Sure.
He just kind of plays it down. Well, you know, we just capped it and put a little thing in there.
Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah.
And 50,
Me and Coot were out there.
Yeah.
Like Dub Taylor. He sounds like Dub Taylor a little
Can
bit.
you see you and me out there?
Capping.
If that
They don't have an arm that long.
If that see if that fire just hit your breath, you could set off. You would set off a whole major ecological disaster. We'll be right back with Orson Bean.